Bam! Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode number 96 of Restitching the Tapestry. It's hard to believe we're on episode 96, but here we are, right? And it's good to be here. Ari, how are you feeling about us being on episode 96?
Oh my goodness, 96 was a good year, a fantastic. When wasn't in Windows? Oh no, it was Windows 98, not 96. 96 was a good year though. What happened in
Let-
96? Was there were a lot of AOL discs from what I
I
remember.
do remember floppy disks, 1000%.
What did
Um,
did Hackers come out in 96? I feel like Hackers came out in 96.
Probably, I would say so. I don't know. I feel like hackers probably have been around since before that, though.
Okay.
Possibly, I don't know. But then again, I do remember what year was it? Was I in third grade? I can't remember if it was third grade or second grade. But I remember that was like the first year we started taking computer classes, and I remember we would do like this learning program called Mavis Beacon. I don't know if you remember Mavis Beacon, but like
Yes.
it was fun. There was like this typing game where like there was like this chameleon like eating letters. It was going like and to this day I remember that game and I'm just like, where is that? That was phenomenal. Like I can type now because of that. Anyway.
I cannot. I still type with not all of my fingers. I type very well. I type 60 words a minute, 65 words a minute,
That is really good.
but I do not type with all of my fingers. I am a terrible typist. I am a I regrettably I type. Have you ever seen pictures of Peter Jennings typing? He types with two fingers. Old Peter Jennings.
Yes.
It's
Oh.
the worst. Dust dust off the history books.
I mean, if you can type 60 words per minute by pointing and clicking, that's actually really impressive. Because for me, it's like 3 words per minute if I'm pointing and typing. Um, so yeah, there's been a lot going on this past week. So let's talk about what we've been doing and how we've been doing, what we've been up to,
Well, I have a little bit of
etc.
sad news, but please don't feel bad. My biological father has passed away. He passed away yesterday. So I was at the hospital yesterday, watching him pass. He had a stroke, and so my sisters and I came together with some family friends, and we watched him pass. Um, it's actually kind of a funny story. It's actually quite literary. He waited until we all had dinner. He waited until I finished all of my knitting for the day. He waited until we all gathered around and we were having kind of like a jovial moment, in which my sister looked at him and said, because my father is a staunch Republican, looked at him and said, "Don't worry, Dad. We won't let anyone dead vote you. And if they do, we'll make sure they don't vote Democrat. We'll make sure they vote Republican and they'll vote Trump." And he kind of did a little death rattle in his throat, relaxed, and released his last breath and died. And I would like to say that this is like a joke and that I am kidding about this. But actually, this is the true story, true and actual story as it happened. My father did die, as my sister said this. And this is the actual fact. He did die as she said this. And we all had a laugh, because we were unbelieving that this is actually what happened and that he died as she said these things. And then we all cried with terrible grief because we cannot believe that he just died in that moment. So it was just like a mixture of sadness and happiness and grief all at the same time. It's kind of the way that he lived his life. I feel as though it was kind of very poignant, very happy, very sad, very literary moment. I one for the books, you know. Uh,
Wow.
so I just I
Wow.
You know,
Wow. Oh my
I just
God.
the best part about it is he can't vote, so I get to vote. So
That sentence is the best sentence. So he can't vote. So I
I hate to. Sorry, Dad. Sorry you don't get to vote in this election, but I do, and I'm going to vote Democrat. So, uh,
like it's interesting because I like when somebody in the family passes and you've had like a very difficult relationship with them, or they've not been that person for you that you've needed them to be, like it can be it can just be very quaking, if that makes sense. But also I think it kind of helps us move forward in some way, or at least feel some sort of relief or catharsis. Like, are you feeling any of those things?
I'm feeling a mixture of a lot of different feelings. I feel I feel a lot of regret that I didn't have more of a positive relationship with my father, that we didn't have a better bond. I'm feeling a lot of regret that we didn't have more of a father child relationship. Um, that I was hoping that we just didn't have more good memories together. I am kind of regretting that we just didn't, have those times that I was hoping that we did have. I do have a few memories together with him, so I am kind of clean to those memories. So it is that. Um, it's just I guess you just can't regret the times that you didn't have. And I guess that's just kind of what I learned from that, is that you just kind of have to move on. And it's just sort of like, maybe my sister said it best. It's just like, I'm sorry, my sister said, I'm sorry I wasn't a better daughter. I'm sorry you weren't a better father. And maybe I'll see you in the next life. And see you
Yeah.
when I see you, kid.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
it's it is what it is. You can't be too sad about it. It's the natural way of things. Either you're in the dead parent club, or you're in the dead kid club, and neither are fun.
yeah. Yeah. So, RP is here. Leo says, sorry for being late. My sister that lives with us tested positive for COVID and I just can't. Yikes. You just got your booster. I hope you don't get it either. And both Leo and RP say, sorry for your loss.
Aw, thank you. I
Sorry.
appreciate that. It's super
Yes.
nice of you.
Yeah. We're all a family here, and I know that we're all here together to navigate these different things. So, Ari, I commend you for wanting to share that so recently, especially after it happened. So,
Yeah, it is what it is.
yeah, yeah.
How about you, Donnie? What are you up to?
Uh, it being exhausted. This week has been a very busy week, and I will drop the news now, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So my partner and I have been house hunting.
Ooh.
And we've been doing it for about okay, so we had something happen last week with our house. And I think I mentioned in the last one of the last episodes about like our dishwasher going, having to get one replaced, not really having a lot of people being able to come out and fix things when we need them. And we just got this thought in our mind last week where we were like, we could be paying toward a mortgage instead of paying rent when we're really not getting the resources we need, right? So we like went into hyperdrive house hunting, and we put an offer in on a house on Monday, and it quickly got accepted. It's a very,
Ooh.
very cute house. I'm excited. It has a fireplace in it, and I love fireplaces. So there's like a reader's nook that has like it's like by a window in front of the fireplace, and it has like shelves for books.
You fucking nerd. Of course it does have a reader's nook.
I'm so excited. So like and it's gonna be like it was interesting because I was talking with my partner Britt the other day about the fact, oh no, he was talking to his mom. and he told his mom that like this is the biggest house Donnie will ever live in, which she found surprising. And I'm like, it's true because I've always lived in a pretty small house, minus the one you've been to, Ari, when we lived in Saginaw, right? But
I'm really excited for you. This is going to be great.
I'm excited too. I'm very nervous because obviously there is no handbook on how to make these decisions, how to, get things done. But thankfully, I'm trying to research, and I have a support network and friends and stuff like that who I can rant to if need be about like the stresses of house hunting and getting a house. So feasibly, by the end of the year, we should be moved into this new house. Um, Thankfully, it won't be during the semester because I would probably have an anxiety attack if it was during the semester. So, but yeah, I'm excited. Beyond that, nothing else exciting has been happening.
Oh, nothing. That's pretty dang exciting.
Oh, I do have a book coming out November 15th. P.S.
Oh, nothing else.
Nothing.
Just a book and a house.
Just a little book. Just a little thing, Just decided to whip it up.
You dropped the picture of it, and I was the picture of the cover, and I was just like, oh, so cute.
I know, I'm so excited. My aunt posed as the model for the cover of my book, and it's going to be fun. It's called Casting Seeds. It's a chapbook of poems, and it's going to be on November 15th, so keep an eye out for that. Okay.
It's so homey. It's so cozy.
And that's my goal with the book. Like, I want everybody to feel like that sense of like nostalgic grandma's house hominess.
It kind of feels like the kind of book that you would want to read while having like a cup of tea or like
in front of a fireplace in a reading nook.
Yes, you fucking nerd. Yes, exactly. In November during NaNoWriMo.
Yes. Ari, I'll have to have you over, and you can write and we can read together in the nook. In the nook. I just love the word nook. Okay, I'm getting way off topic now. I apologize. So, current event snapshot. Let's quickly talk about some things going on in the world.
Recession.
Oh, yes. There are some looming fears of an economic recession taking place. I mean, gas prices themselves are asininely expensive.
It feels kind of like whiplash. Like one day it'll be like really high, and then it'll like drop below $4, and then it'll go like really up, and then it'll go like down. It's
and I don't know if you've noticed too, but like produce and stuff like that, like groceries have also started getting more expensive.
So here's the thing. I don't know if you've been watching my grocery hauls lately.
I have.
So the thing about my grocery hauls is I have been going to Meijer in Michigan. The thing with produce is that they have been subsidized at Meijer if you have a SNAP card. So you get 10% off if you have an EBT card at Meijer. So, and like I buy seasonal. So not only do I get cheaper for my EBT card, but I get subsidized for my SNAP card. So actually my produce has been like super cheap.
Wow, that's good though. That's good.
So like I don't know like what is expensive and what is cheap, but like produce has been like super cheap to me. What has been most expensive is bread. Bread has astronomically gone up because my bread went from $3.99 and now it's $4.79.
Wow. Yeah, that's really intense. So yeah, like there's this, of course, like now that we're in the process of buying a house, I'm also the recession thing is looming over my head and making me be like, maybe I should have waited, but better late than never. Like it's gonna happen, right? Other news, the election is on the horizon, correct?
Yep, November 8th, I believe.
November 8th. So that's in just like what, a week and a half or so. So that's I mean, that's going to be a big deal. There's going to be a lot of conversation about that. It's going to literally determine.
What is this thing with Kanye West being anti-Semitic, by the way? Like he
Oh,
just
yeah.
keeps going, right? Like
He's continuing to spout very anti-Semitic things. He's not holding himself accountable. And to top it off, like, what's kind of funny is that all of these big name brands who partnered with him are now pulling away. So, like, he is
rightfully
losing
so.
so much money.
I mean,
So
it's
much
just because he's
money.
manic, honestly.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate too, because like he
But
really.
like, but even if you're manic, like that's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing about like mental illness and manic episodes. Like, it doesn't excuse like shitty behavior. Like
Oh
this,
no.
like here's the
Yeah.
thing. Like people, and this what happened with Gabby. What's her name?
Gabby Hanna.
Gabby Hanna. She was like racist and saying like some really like it's like shitty behavior. Like people think like if you have like a mental illness, like when you say shitty things, like if you have a mental illness, it's like a get out of jail free card. It isn't. Like you can be unproblematic and have a mental illness. Like just because you have a mental illness, like it doesn't excuse racism or like homophobia or like anti-Semitism or like it doesn't excuse. It's not a like you're still a shitty person. Like you can if you say those or do those things. Like it doesn't excuse. Like that's why you can like criminal behavior. Like sometimes that makes sense, but like it doesn't. You're still not forgiven. Like you still
Right.
go to the mental ill institution
Yeah.
because you've done those things. Like it's not that you are scot free. Like you
Right.
go off into the world. You're free as a bird. You go to the mental institution. Like
So I think that's what makes me so frustrated about Kanye West is the fact that he blatantly disregards and just completely ignores his mental health. And to me, I am always thinking about like representation, like what representative message does that send to others who struggle with mental health and others who deny mental health as well?
Because he doesn't take care of it. He doesn't take medication. He doesn't go to therapy. He doesn't he doesn't take accountability for his behavior at all. And then that's the thing, like that's why Kanye West is like I hate Kanye West so much. Like he doesn't take accountability for his behavior. He doesn't take accountability for his actions. He just like goes out there and he says, I'll do what I want because it makes me creative. And it's like, no, it just makes you an asshole who thinks that it makes you creative. But really what it does is it makes you a wild cannon who does things and like thinks it makes you creative. And really what it does is it makes you a mess.
Yeah.
And like
exactly.
the thing about it is I didn't become more creative until I got my shit together and started taking medication and going to therapy because I actually could maintain focus and like keep myself together because I didn't publish a book until 2020 and I was going to therapy and I was taking medication at that time and like my writing hasn't gotten better until I would say this year when I actually finally really got myself together and I started to feel more positive. Like you've read my stuff more recently. My writing has gotten like significantly better this year, even. Like all of my stuff before felt very angry and like it has like a totally different vibe before than it does now. And like it's just like I feel like all of his stuff is like that too, where he's just like in this vacuum void of like just I don't know. It has that same feeling of what I was like before, where it's just like it's not a healthy space.
Yeah, I agree completely. I do want to, before we do the show mission, so I just realized we're 20 minutes in.
Oh my goodness, we've done it again.
we had a lot to talk about, right? So I do want to see Amy Lee Forever is here and says, hi, lovelies, virtual hugs to all. Oh, and Floor Jansen from Nightwish, the band Nightwish, has breast cancer. That's so sad. Amy Lee Forever asks, Donny, who are you going to be for Halloween? I'm so curious. I suppose you're going to have to find out, aren't you? Have to wait and find out. Anyway, so let's see. Thank you for saying good luck with house hunting, Donny. Or RB, I appreciate you saying that. So, our topic tonight's going to be struggles with eating disorders or disordered eating. So, let's go through our show mission statement and then get to our topic, okay? We live in a dynamic society where social media shapes us by creating greater opportunities for connection. It has led to a developing understanding of the adversity many marginalized communities face, the powers causing the adversity, and those who act as bystanders as atrocities take place in real time. Our goal with this show is to make connections and have challenging conversations about social topics, current events, pop culture, and art. Together, let's weave the threads of understanding with what privilege we have in order to learn, educate, and create in a world that's growing. So, struggles with disordered eating. Ari, boy, do we have history. We
there's
have
a trigger warning on this episode.
Yes, we do have a trigger warning. P.S. We will be talking about our experiences with disordered eating. If you are an individual who has had struggles in the past, currently is, or is triggered by any sort of conversation with regard to this topic, we would encourage you to maybe skip this episode. Otherwise, if you want to stay here and listen to us have this conversation, feel free to stick around, okay? Thank you for reminding me, Ari. I greatly appreciate it. So, but history. We do have history, don't we? So I guess before we talk about our histories, let's pose the question of what is the difference between an eating disorder and disordered eating. I think that's very important to distinguish.
So, in my opinion, the difference between an eating disorder and disordered eating is that an eating disorder, you have to hit like certain markers of like you display like specific definable behavior that it reaches certain markers of like it reaches the actual point of like it hits to a point of where it disrupts your point to a high degree. It's like really to a high degree, and like you are losing a significant amount of weight, and like you are having serious health problems, and like it is horribly problematic. And disordered eating is you display certain behaviors and markers, but it's not to the point of where it's like something that is to that high level of the classified medical definable. So it's like you may display one or two behaviors, or like a behavior, or like you'll hear something and it'll be like this makes sense, or like this makes sense, or like you'll hear something and you're like this makes sense to me, but like it's like you don't reach all of the markers of what would be considered an actual medically defined eating disorder.
Interesting. I think that's definitely some good context to have as we continue the conversation, right? So, when did you first discover that you've had a struggle with disordered eating? When did you first discover your struggle with it? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask.
I've known for a while that I've had problems with disordered eating. Like did I know that I struggled with problems with eating? Probably college is when I knew that I had problems with eating, like where I would skip meals, and that I would like punish myself for eating. Those are definable disordered eating traits. I would say that it developed into more than just that when I lived at Grand Canyon where it was actually like it might have gone into actual eating disorder. Maybe, I don't know. It was more than just disordered behavior for a while, and then it just kind of like went back into just disordered behavior, um, because it it went into variations. It I would say that I am probably at the best place right now that I have been, but it's still not perfect. I still struggle with it at times at this point. But I would say probably no, I because even as a teenager I struggled with it, but did I know about it? Knowing about it is the definable thing.
Yeah.
Probably college is when I knew about it.
I would say that's the same for me too. I think I mean, I know we've kind of talked about bits and pieces of this in earlier episodes of the show, but also in videos on our respective channels, right? But for me, it did start in college when I came out and wanted to start appealing to men when I was first fitting into the gay community, right?
Mhm.
At first, it was I was too scrawny, I was too thin, and I needed to build muscle and bulk up. So I like went to the gym a lot to
Yeah.
the extent where it like and we have a future episode called talking about gym culture, so we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But that also then like it transitioned into me eating more too. But then I gained weight. That paired with like the stress of school.
Mhm.
So then I just kind of had like this moment where like people were saying that I wasn't attractive that based on my body size. And that's when I started skipping meals. I started it first began with lessening of portions. Like I would I would like cut it in half, and then I'd cut my portions by like 75% to the extent where I was barely getting any nutrients in a day. And then I would like skip meals entirely. And there were days where like I remember days where I wouldn't eat at all, like other
Oh
than
no.
like water and like
Yeah, I would do that too. I would have
maybe like a
fast days.
cracker. Yeah.
I would have fast days. And then I would have days where I would treat myself. I would have treat days.
Hmm.
And then I would have days where I would make up for it.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
well, the interesting thing is I didn't know that what I was doing or that it was disordered eating until it got so significant where I began abusing laxatives.
oh yeah.
And then I got sick as a result. Like it made me sick, like with such few nutrients in my body. And then like, kind of thinking about like how like using this medication I shouldn't have been using made me feel lighter and less bloated. Like it made me sick. And that's when I kind of had like this cruel rude awakening that like what I was doing was not what I should have been doing. That was not healthy for my body to do.
Oh, there was sorry, Brian. We
Hi,
weren't ignoring
Brian.
you. We weren't ignoring you.
We
Sorry,
were
we got
just on
caught
a,
up in
we were just
conversation.
yeah, we were just hyper focused. And Brian says body shaming tends to be the reason for eating disorders too, and disordered eating. Yes, I do agree that that contributes to it considerably. Yeah. But yeah, like I didn't even identify it as such until I got sick. And then throughout college, there was a certain point where I got therapy too. And my therapist was like, Donnie, like, let's start making a plan to, stabilize your diet a little bit more so you are actually getting what you need. Right. And I had to completely reassess, my understanding of what it meant to be a gay man too, like, and appealing to people, because like if I operated under that toxic mentality before, it just would have continued spiraling and spiraling and spiraling.
See, and I didn't talk about my diet for years and years and years. People just always thought that that I was eating normally and that I was like eating healthily, and that I needed to lose a few pounds. People always thought that I need, because it's always the assumption that if you, because I was a cishet woman, always thought that I needed to lose more weight because I was not I was not skinny enough. That's the thing. I did not meet the markers of a medically defined eating disorder. I was not under the lowest BMI. I was considered a normal weight. I was 175. I was a normal weight. I was a size 12. So it's not considered overweight. I was not, even though I was starving myself and I was doing these binges and what are considered purges, where I would over exercise as a way to compensate for I wouldn't even consider them binges, because it would just be normal eating, where I would have like a social gathering where I would have like maybe like 3 or 4 slices of pizza in a group gathering. And then the next day I would work and I would burn 1,300 calories in an exercise session. And I would do that as a way to make up for, and I would do that on the regular. Like I would over exercise as a way to, and I would do that as a punishment for, and I would do that on the regular, or I would starve. And it was like, I would tailor exercise on the regular to work around social gatherings and dates and functions. And so then when I got done with college, I moved to Iowa, and I did what I considered let myself go. I dated somebody who was not, he was not a very fit person. Mm-hmm. And he liked to eat. So I became a very sedentary person. Mm-hmm. And I gained weight, and I was around a person who was a body shamer. So what that was, I said, I consider myself a very good looking person. And she said, "You're a good looking person for Iowa."
What? Oh my God.
And I look back at pictures of myself, and I was probably maybe like, I was about 200 pounds. So I was not exactly like an overly heavy person, but I was not an overly skinny person. I was mid-size, but just the fact that like, and this was a skinny person saying these things to me. Mm-hmm. So they were probably like maybe about 130, 140 pounds. So it just, the amount of psychological damage that they did to me caused me to, among what other people told me when I moved to Grand Canyon, caused me to become in hyperdrive more, just ramp up the amount of disordered behavior.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's part of the background of that. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time to unwork those behaviors, but it just was horrible. The body image, and like the body image of like just the negative self-image that I had of myself for such a long time. I would, when I was in high school, I had a woman who I was in color guard with, who took her tiny little 120-pound body, and she did this thing. To this day, I do it still to my body. She took around her belly button and she made what she calls a bagel. She made it look like a bagel. And she said, "I have a bagel." And she's a 120-pound woman. She said, I knew I was fat when I could make a bagel. And so
Oh,
every time I could do that with my body, no matter how skinny I've gotten, I've been able to do that with my body. I feel very uncomfortable. I'm sorry I'm bringing this up because I know I don't want to trigger anybody.
no. I mean, we did convey the trigger warning already, but like it shows you just like how other people's behaviors inadvertently can also trigger.
But my stomach is
right?
one of those areas that I feel very uncomfortable about. And so like just the fact that like, so I just it, over the years, it's just like, and like, just sometimes I'll weigh myself and I'm like, oh, I failed the fat test. Like,
Yeah. So, yeah, that really resonates with me. Because like for me, my most recent experience with disordered eating was probably about like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was when I was dating my ex, and we went to the lake with his nieces, well, his nieces and nephews, and I am not the kind of person who likes to take off my clothes at swimming events, even though it's kind of expected for men to do so, right? And I was kind of shamed into going shirtless, which I was not happy about because I knew something was going to be said. And one of his nephews, who was old enough to know what bullying is and not to make comments like this, looked at me and was like, "Oh God, look, you got boobs."
oh no.
And that for me just kind of spiraled for like a week or two where like I was just running. Like I lived on just salads. So like it was like I would like reduce like the amount that I would eat. It kind of like went through that cycle just because one child said something, which to me, like, if a child is going to say something, where do they probably hear it from?
Yeah.
So when you mentioned that, like, I was just like just like that shame, like it can be triggered so easily by
And
something.
it's not even that she was saying it about me specifically, but it's just like when people say things about themselves, it's like when somebody says something about themselves, it's like if they say that about themselves, what do they think about me? And who's bigger than them? It's like what do they think about when they look at me who has a bigger stomach than them? What are they saying about me? What are they thinking about me?
Yeah, I've thought that too. Brian says, I deal with feeling ashamed of my body image because I'm unable to do much about it other than dieting. And then says, I not only have a poor body image, but I'm also disabled too.
The best thing is that how I worked on it this year for my body image is I watch I for the longest time over the summer I watched morning affirmations. I would get up in the morning and I would do my morning meditation and I would watch this affirmation for confidence and self image, and it would just be like 10-minute affirmations of like I am the best version of myself and just like affirmations like that, and then you say it out loud or in your mind, you repeat those twice, and it just like a 10-minute video of um just like affirmations that you repeat, and they just I am beautiful, I am confident, I am strong, I am perfect as I am, just like over and over, and a 10-15 minute video.
That's sometimes that's so important, That's so important.
And I would do that for months. I did that for a couple months where I just every morning I would wake up and drink my water and I would do my affirmations, and I would just get on with the rest of my day and like
Yeah, I've done something similar before, like where I would, like for me, like I would have to like sit in front of a mirror or stand in front of a mirror and just stand there until I start focusing in on my good qualities that I always thought were good qualities, which would then expand out. And then I would start getting a little bit more like optimistic about myself. It doesn't always work for me, but like sometimes, like if I'm at my lowest, that's something that I do.
Mhm.
Arpy asks, did your ex say anything when you went through that situation? He did not. In fact, I basically was made to feel like I was being overdramatic. So that's fun. Gaslighting, woo. Um, Diet culture. I mean, I know we've talked about diet culture before, but how does that contribute to disordered eating?
Diet culture is insidious because it always talks about like the newest diet fad or like, and it's always like, try this diet. And like, you know, it really plays into disordered eating, like cutting out certain food groups and cutting out certain food,
Mm,
um,
portion
and
controlling.
portion controlling, calorie counting, starting, don't eat, don't eat fruit because if you eat fruit that's got sugar in it, you don't want to eat sugar. Um, for me, when I first became vegetarian, it was part of disordered eating that, like, if I didn't eat meat, I was going to lose weight because if I didn't eat meat, that made me, that was less calories. But then I was making up with it by eating a bunch of sugar and I was eating a bunch of processed stuff. So
Yeah.
it didn't make sense to me. So like some of that was a little bit disordered eating when I first started becoming vegetarian. Now that I'm vegan, I definitely have taken a more balanced approach to it because I eat a more variety in my diet, and I'm more thoughtful about my approach to it. Um, that I really am more thoughtful about how I am eating, and that I'm not just that I actually have more variety in my diet, and I'm actually like thinking about like what I'm actually eating,
Yeah.
and that I eat what I want when I want, and not just
Hmm.
yeah. So
That's so interesting. Um I would argue that diet culture has gotten to me quite a bit too. Like I do think that for some there are healthy ways to diet. Um, but like for me personally, sometimes I think sometimes the best thing that I can do is just not fall into those ruts because like there's like when I start dieting, there's like this temptation where like I can look at the structure of the parameters that I need to work in, but then there are instances where I just take it further, just a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, until I lose control of it. Right. So it kind of like just becomes like this snowball effect,
mhm.
unfortunately.
But I still like eat, even as a vegan, like I still eat processed food,
Mhm.
and like I'm actually like not 100% vegan because I found myself not being able to cut honey out of my diet. Like that's like a weird thing.
That would be hard for me to cut out too because I do love honey, and honey's in a lot of stuff.
Honey isn't, and that's the thing. Like I'm finding that honey is in so many things, and it's like it's not that I'm like consuming honey on purpose. It's just like
Yeah.
I'm mostly vegan. I'm a I'm a fast and loose vegan.
Thank you, Brian, for those kind words. I appreciate it. So, uh, how do relationships and those around us factor into, ooh, and affect disordered eating? That's a very good question, Ari, that you came up with for that.
You're the one that's in a relationship.
Well, like, I mean, right now, like, it's not anything challenging for me now, but in the past, peer pressure really bad. Like, oh, you're not eating this, Donny? Why? Or they would be like, should you have that extra slice of whatever you're having? Do you really need that piece of chocolate cake, Donny? Do you really need that extra piece of pizza? Or, Donny, you're eating a lot of bread. Should you be eating a lot of bread? And then, of course, like it got to the
Comments
point.
on your body.
Comments on my body, and this also, what I'm about to say, connects to the other question of socioeconomic factors. That, like, we were going to pose a question about like socioeconomic factors and how those weigh into this.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't want to eat something, but then was told, well, we paid for this, or well, we're really poor right now and you need to eat what we have. Like, that kind of became like scenarios where like I felt shame for even not wanting to eat something, or shame for eating something. Like for example, like shame for eating something. Like if we were poor and I ate too much of something, oh, it became a thing. Like it became a thing where like you were kind of called out for it, you know.
Yeah.
I used to have like a significant challenge with drinking, like, because I've always loved having like some people don't like to drink beverages while they eat. I love beverages. And when I was a kid, like I would have family members get so mad at me that I would drink more than eat, that they would take away any sort of beverage and I wouldn't be allowed to drink anything.
That's messed up.
Yeah. And I remember, and like that kind of like, I would argue, if I were to unpack all of my experiences, that probably contributed to some of my disordered eating, unfortunately. How about you? Like how do relationships and those around you affect disordered eating?
Well, previous relationships, it affected, like, they would comment on my body. I have a video, and I specifically said in the video, "Oh, I've been losing weight. I really like how I look right now." And he grabbed my stomach, shook it, and said, "But how do you feel? How do you feel?" I'll show you it sometime.
I don't think I've ever seen that video.
It's called Puppies and Kittens.
That's so messed up. That is disturbing.
It's
What?
it's a very disturbing video. He was very annoyed with me, and he thought he was being funny. I look at that video and I try to understand the intent behind it. But I just look at that moment and I go, that is a moment in which I was treated very poorly right there.
Yes, 1000%. Yeah, that's inexcusable behavior.
And
Wow.
there would just be times where we would get high and we would order food, and he would not think that I was eating too much. He would start giving me some, and then he would take it away because he wanted to keep the rest for himself. So he would like tuck it away and away from me because he didn't want me having too much.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. What? That's
He would
really
do stuff like that to me
unsettling.
all the time. Or like when I would eat something, he would like kind of watch me eat, but then like, or he would like close things up very gingerly and just like tuck it away from me, like out of my reach, so that I
Like you
can.
were somehow some uncontrollable beast, like appetite beast that would eat like, wow. That's not acceptable. Mm-mm. Well, I'm glad now that you can look back on it and recognize that person was
But then
being
with my last
very.
boyfriend, I got into weird eating habits because he would do things. He would do things like he would go for a run and he would order like on his run, he would eat a burger and then he would come home and eat whatever I was cooking. So he would go out and he'd eat a burger and then come home and then eat whatever I had cooked. So like I'd made some soup and he would eat soup when he'd come home. So he would eat double whatever I ate. And so he would get into weird eating habits. Like he would, and I got into it too. He would eat handfuls of just like spinach out of the bag. And I got into this weird eating habit of just like eating handfuls of things. Like I would buy a bag of, and I do this to this day. It's a weird eating habit. I won't necessarily, it's called foraging in my opinion. You won't eat a whole of a thing, but you'll forage. Like you'll open a bag of chips and you'll eat like a handful of chips. And then you'll go to the cupboard and you'll grab like a handful of chocolate chips. You'll eat a handful of chocolate chips. You'll go to the fridge, you'll grab a handful of spinach. You'll eat a handful of spinach. You'll go back and forth and just eat handfuls of things until you've made yourself so full that you're sick. And it's like a binge, but it's a binge on a handful of everything.
But you kind of convince yourself that it isn't a binge because of the smaller handful portions. Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
And that's how he eats.
Ooh. Brian says you deserve to be treated and valued as a person and treated with love and respect. RB also says that. And then Brian says, you are beautiful, both of you. Thank you. You are too.
Let's get into some of these other questions. Did it ever feel like you conquered your eating when it came to disordered eating?
Conquered your eating, like successfully got through it without feeling like
you got to the top of the fucking mountain, you planted your flag and you said, God damn it, I conquered this war, I am over, you are my bitch and I won.
I would argue no, because it's always in the back of my mind. Always. Like this, like how many calories is this? How big of a portion is this? If I put too much on my plate, what will people think? Like if I leave a little bit left on my plate or in whatever it is that I'm drinking, will people think that I'm demonstrating self-restraint? Like it's always in the back of my mind, unfortunately. So I would argue that I have not fully conquered it yet because I still have those thoughts. Now, have I conquered acting on it? I would say yes. But a lot of it is also the thought processes too. And I think I still have work to do on that. What about you?
Twice. The first time, I feel like I conquered it. I had been so disordered. I was at Grand Canyon. I lost a significant amount of weight. I was so disgustingly thin that I looked down at my legs and I was like, am I really this thin? Am I really this disgustingly thin? I thought, I did it. I conquered my eating. I did it. I'm subsisting on coffee, air, and grilled cheese. And that's it.
Wow.
But I was not happy. Not even a little bit.
You said that was the first time?
That was the first time. Second time was this summer. I was eating whatever I wanted. I was happy. I'm happy vegan. Happy vegan. I'm starting to lose weight. I'm living my life. I'm beautiful. I'm happy.
You are beautiful, Ari.
And
I'm proud of you.
But the fall came and I started to gain weight again. And I'm starting to binge again. So I feel like I'm more off track than I was. But this summer, I felt like I was conquering it. And I was on track and I just need to get back on track again with conquering the monster that is food. But I feel like I'm closer to that beating that war, that
Yeah.
constant war.
Oh, Sophia, hi, it's good to see you. I feel closer than I did before too. Like I do feel like I'm more conscious of it and I'm able to like stop myself and recognize the disordered eating behaviors before I allow it to kind of snowball effect into something bigger, right? Um, I have also through moments learned how to shut up that voice too that's always like, what are other people thinking of you, Donny? Like, are people thinking that you like for me, like the word slovenly is always in my head where like do people think that I'm slovenly or am I refined and demonstrating what's the word, restraint, right? It's interesting.
Oh my God. That's why social gatherings are so anxious. It's like,
Yeah.
do I take a little bit? How much should I be taking? And like now I'm like, I'm gonna take as much as I want because I'm
Mm-hmm.
hungry. I'm hungry and I want to take enough.
Yeah.
Like, okay, seriously. I was at your house. And I was like, I was so hungry. I was so hungry.
Oh.
And like I got done with that one plate and I was like, I want more. And
Oh.
I almost asked for more. I almost asked for more. And I was like, it was like my disordered eating brain was like, you don't need more. And I'm like, but I'm fat. And it's like,
Were
you
you
are.
like, I don't need more. I don't know what they'll think of me. Because
They're
that's what.
like, they're like, but there may not be more. And I'm like, but I want more. And they're like, but you can't have more.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry that you were going through that. But like I do that though too when I'm at other people's places. Like I think because of the social economic aspect of it too, like I always worry about consuming their worth of what they have or their wealth of what they have and not leaving them anything to help them sustain themselves. Like that's like I think that's going to be a deep conditioned fear that I'm going to probably have to navigate for a long time before I can undo it. But for me that's a huge part of it. Like I don't want to be I don't want to like consume everyone else's resources, right? Oh, interesting. Um, so we do have a few more questions.
I think we
You
should skip to the last one because we're
okay? Yeah.
at time.
Arguably, we could do a part two to this episode because I think there is more to break down for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So last question. What advice do you have, if any, based on what you've learned from your own struggle/journey with disordered eating? Chapter
Fuck the
1.
haters. Fuck the lovers. Eat what you want. Be intuitive. Don't let anyone tell you what to put on your fork. Just, in the words of Weird Al Yankovic, just eat it.
Yeah. Oh my god. That and I can't remember who told me this. Was it my therapist in college? She said, "Donnie, your body deserves the resources it needs to sustain itself. And you should not deny it of those resources
Oh, and
because oh, go
also,
ahead.
carbs aren't evil.
Yeah, carbs aren't evil. No, they're not.
That's what I'm writing. Did I tell you what I'm writing my NaNoWriMo about?
No, oh my god, tell me. Now you have to tell everybody.
It's called A Story of a Fat Woman Who Loves Carbs.
I'm already invested.
It's a romance story about a woman who loves carbs, and it's not a romance in which she finds love with someone else. It's a story of self-love and a story of intuitive eating, and it's her journey of finding the joy within and finding the joy of good food.
I am invested. I am
It's
so invested. That's good. I think the world needs to read more things like that. You know what? Yeah, this has been a difficult topic because we are histories, of course, but I really value the ground that we've covered tonight for sure. And I hope everyone that our conversation has been at least interesting or illuminating in some way. But if there's anything that I've learned, it's that because of my history, I have to remain vigilant and I have to, like you just mentioned, Ari, intuitiveness. I have to remain intuitive about things that I'm telling myself when it comes to food, right? And navigating those challenging landscapes as they arise, right? So I think it's possible. I think people can navigate through those. But I would say that the most important thing is making sure that you have a strong support network too. People who won't shame you, right? But also people who equally don't enable too, right? Because that can be, and that we could talk about that in another episode because that's one thing that I also experienced a lot is like the enabling too, right? So, any parting words for the night? All right.
Don't worry about it. Eat what you want. Eat the best food. Don't ever let yourself be stuck with something bad. Don't ever be stuck with a bad meal. You should never eat something that's bad.
And remember, you're beautiful and we love you.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. We love you all. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.